Welcome to the Paradise Podcast. Today I've got my first ever guest, the Kid, and we go way back. I don't know if you want to explain a little bit about your new book that's out and how that came about, because that links into how we got to know each other and how we got to this level.
It was like 98, 99. I was going to university. I just come out of a stint in the military. I was overseas, and I used that kind of like a lab rat environment, like a breeding ground. You know, the internet wasn't really a thing yet. It was very transient. Just the environment over there, it was really oppressive, like for guys trying to deal with women over there, because the ratio was so fucked. It was like 7-1 dudes to chicks. This was in Korea. After I got out and I came back, I was going to university. Like, I tried out so many hypotheses, and some of them blew up my face, and a lot of them became theories. A lot of stuff I was just throwing against the wall and see what stuck. People in a normal environment, they would never take the kind of risks I was taking, because if you're in a persistent environment, you don't want to do stuff like that, because you ruin your rep and you get a bad name. But in a transit environment, especially before the internet was really a thing, you could really do almost anything, and there was no repercussion, because once you got out of there, none of that ever happened.
Yeah.
There was no way, you couldn't catch them on Facebook or nothing. It's just They were just in the wind. I had like a little book, little notes I was taking as far as what worked, what didn't work. And so when I came back, I was at university one day, and there was a computer that was open. Like, this is back in the day before people had laptops really and stuff. They had like desktops and like these little cubicles, like in the little union or whatever. Yeah. So I went to sit down to check my email or something, and there was this website open called the Pimp Network. And I was like, oh, I checked it out. And I was like, well, it's kind of dearth of content, but I can kind of, this is cool. Like, it's kind of like fate for me. So I started talking to the webmaster. I told him kind of my background, how I like to kind of put my thoughts down on the paper and kind of just throw them out there and see what happens. So he was like, yeah, you can do that. You can do whatever you want, really. Then I find out that, he's also a student going to the same college. So it wasn't because he could have been anywhere in the world. He shrewdly left his computer open on his page to try to get some traction. And I'm the one that ran into it. Just total serendipity. So the rest is kind of history. I made a bunch of articles that I published under the banner of Pimposophy, and they're different articles that managed to cohese a little bit. It had some sort of order to them, because I'm the tangent king. It's amazing to have any kind of order to them. So that was like 20 some odd years ago.
If I can just interject one thing for anyone listening who's not familiar with the material, Pimp Network, Pimpology, that doesn't exactly mean what a lot of people out of straight society would correlate it with something illegal or that's breaking common ethical codes. Even you just spend a minute on that.
There's a lot of negative connotation to it, stigma to it.
Yeah,
especially nowadays with the upswing in human trafficking and stuff like that. They're really cracking down on
but actually maybe in another way, maybe hip hop and everything has opened people up to think about a lot of words in different ways, that they can mean multiple things, that they can be used as a metaphor.
My draw, my hook, I guess it is. I was steeped in Iceberg Slim, as you are, and that's probably one of our main common bonds, is our affinity for that man. I was gifted Pimp on my 21st birthday from a buddy of mine. I had it when I was overseas, and it was like my Bible. I mean, I probably donated it to somebody now, but it had 6 different color highlighters in there. I read it forward and back, up and down. So what I did was, I kind of took the principles, you read between the lines. There's a lot in there. If you don't know what you're looking at, it's just it's just this gangster ghetto ass story of this dude. But if you really know how to read between the lines, it's just a lot of good, solid psychology, a good, solid mindset stuff in there. You got to dig for it, though. It's you got to really shift for your goal. So what I was doing was, because I never wanted to be like a pimp. I just, I took the lesson from the book, because at the end of the day, he was like, look, you don't want to do this. I spent more than half my life in prison. And I never really wanted to depend on women for my livelihood either. I didn't like the sound of that either. So what I did was, I took a lot of the core concepts that I dug out of that book, and I essentially codified it for straight average Joe. So basically it's like a pimp's eye for the square guy kind of thing. I codified that up, and then I made my articles where I was kind of saying how you can apply sort of pimp principles, but to social dynamics. That's basically what I was doing, how to have that mindset, be able to read the room, situational awareness, be aware of societal factors, your environmental factors, be aware of your clout in your front, just how to be able to not so much chase women, but figure out which ones are choosing you, so you know which ones to choose from. Essentially, that's what it boiled down to.
Beggars can't be choosers either.
Nope.
So got all these sayings from my granddad. It's like when you're young and stuff, you don't really take notice of it, but as you get older, well, in my case, a lot of these old sayings seem to be more and more wise.
Mm-hmm.
The more I think about it, the more middle of it's like common sense isn't common. So it's like, here's my uncommon sense after chopping up all this stuff. I've arrived back at right down the middle. What's ethical? We talk about pimpology, pimpophacy, the ethics, and what I'm upholding and what I've settled on, what I feel most comfortable with, is probably what most people would agree on in theory, but they're just not doing it in reality. Or they're like, yeah, you can do that for me, but I'm not going to do that for you. But going back to Iceberg Slim, he really influenced Ice-T, and that's where if you listen to any Ice-T track, he's giving you the good and the bad. He's not just saying all this stuff like, yeah, I've got this car, I've got this money.
He gives you the consequences too, yeah.
Just like you look at the cover of Power on the back, you see the guns and he's like two sides, the duality, and that's what Iceberg Slim presented was not just some kind of glamorous thing. I mean, you can cherry pick things from the book, whatever you want, on the glamorous side, negative side, on the mental illness side, the street poisoning side, but he put it all together in a very interesting way and kind of bared his soul. That's one of many things that Ice liked about him, and so that's why I think Ice-T has done so well and why he's different, because he does take that negativity and he shares that B-side.
Right. Whereas my thing was I was trying my best to remove the negativity from the equation. Yeah. I tried to distill it as best as I could to where as much as the good, as little as the bad as possible, to where you can still apply it and it can make a meaningful impact on your life socially.
Yeah. Because principles are principles. They're either universally applicable or they're not principle. Usually where the great things in this life are finding some principles and then applying something in your life where you've never applied them before, or even generally where you see in society they're not being applied. It's like Ford didn't invent the automobile. Romeo and Juliet, that wasn't Shakespeare's play. He took that story and he applied his system of writing to it. So you apply things in different areas and that can cause, success or failure. Now you've looked back at those writings and decided to write a book about those writings.
Yes. It's been like 20 years since I penned those. I was a wee little hot-headed little 26, 27-year-old, 25. I've definitely done a lot of living since then. I've taken my fair share of L's, Every time I've gone against those core principles that I put down on the paper, it never went right.
Not even initially for a little bit of instant gratification.
It may be instant gratification, but the long term it was never worth it. It just doesn't sit right with your spirit. It's almost like the Matrix, where it's like Cypher's in there. He knows the steak is fake, but he's still eating because it's good. It's like that. Probably once you finish the steak, you're like, well, shit, that was good, but now I'm still fucked off. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. It took me a while. The mindset, it can weigh heavy on you. It's a lot to really assimilate to. Sometimes you just think maybe I'll try something different, or maybe I don't have to quite be like this, and then something will happen where it's like, well, shit, that's why I am like this. I'm living my best life now because I'm standing completely in that truth, and it's like, man, I should have known this the whole time. I'm at a point now where I'm so much more, I'm aware, but I don't really care. Like that's my motto. I'm aware, but I don't really care. I feel you I like the concept of intelligent compromise, and I do leverage a bit of that. I guess my own little twist on it, the way I do it. There's some things I'll compromise, and there's some things I'll never compromise. Like me at my core, I'll never compromise. But I know there's like little, like incidental, superficial things in the moment, things that I'll compromise on, like with my old lady or whatever. And I'm married now, in case anybody was.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a great dynamic because like I always say, I'm finishing how I started, and I didn't do a whole lot to begin with. She liked what she saw. She chose up. I didn't do no big old song and dance. I didn't throw a bunch of flowers at her or wine and dine her, sweep her off her feet. She just liked who I was as a person at my core, and I never made any airs about it. So we get along great because I don't have any upkeep. I don't have any emotional upkeep or social upkeep to do because I'm just being me, and that is easy because I've been me for a long time. I call it like the KFC theory, where it's like, okay, there's I guess 11 herbs and it's the secret recipe, this original recipe chicken. Now, I don't know which one of those I could take out and fuck up the flavor. Like maybe I could take out this one little bit here and nobody would know, or maybe that one little bit might fuck the whole thing up. I don't know, so I don't touch none of it. What I'm saying is like I can like if you consider my core to be the recipe, the 11 herbs and spices. Maybe she's testing me one day, or maybe there's a situation where it's like, well, maybe I could take that one spice out. It wouldn't hurt. No, that's what you don't do because you don't know if that's going to be the one that'll suddenly not make you the man that she chose anymore. You know, not make the reason why she don't love you no more. You know, and then you get to talk about, oh, you know, you're different. You know, you're not the man you used to be, and that's just because you did something to try to please her. And that's what you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, I didn't mention stupid compromise, which is when we're going on vacation, you know, I don't want to go to Italy, and she doesn't want to go to France, right? So then we say, oh, let's choose somewhere we mutually think's all right, or, you know, I don't want to do this in bed to you. So, you know, let's choose something that is okay for both of us. So neither of you's getting what you really want in a relationship. So you don't have to be Einstein to figure out what's going to happen if neither of you are ever going to get exactly what you want on a plate for, you know, however long you want it, kind of thing. And, you know, if you ask a woman what her ideal relationship is, it's not going to be just say roses. It's not going to be getting half a rose, you know, here's half a rose because I'm kind of compromising. It's going to be like, I like to receive roses. And this is the important thing, that you have to have some level of degree of great communication, integrity, and know to say when things are important, when it really is like a fantasy or it really does turn you on or whatever. Or, you know, I've always wanted to go to Greece. It's something on my bucket list. It's not just like, I like Greece, you know, I want to go because I want to go because I've said I like it. So you got to, on both sides, read into how important it is for the person and also communicate to them what's really important for you. That's the other side. Intelligent. I mean, there's a great phrase by a guy called Chris Voss, who was a FBI negotiator, read his book, and he was like, bad compromise or stupid compromise is like one brown shoe, one black shoe, because you like to wear brown shoes. She says, put on black shoes. So neither of you win. So you got to have giving, receiving, and it's got to be stuff that you really want. So let's say you want to see Star Wars. I don't really like Star Wars, but you're my best friend. So I'm like, hell, I want to hang out with the kid. We're going to go and see it. I'm going to ask him what he finds interesting about the movie. I might notice something I like about the movie, but it's not something I'd go and do on my own. But hey, we're hanging out, and actually he came with me and saw a movie I really wanted to see. Could tell he was a bit bored, but you know, we went out for dinner after, and we got to know each other a bit better and everything. It's like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Another thing is like as far as me vetting women in general, as I have.
Yeah, how do you settle on someone? Like, how do you say, like, this is someone I'm not going to put the effort. Obviously, it depends on how lazy you are, but you know, how
I'm
do
pretty
you
lazy.
settle on someone or avoid someone?
My general guideline, which I've really boiled down to next to nothing, I've really laser focused it at this point, at this age of my life, is I just try to deal with people,
You're a
women. I
double
deal with
D.
women. I deal with, well, yeah.
Sorry, man.
I deal with, make sure I deal with women whose bullshit is compatible with mine. That's the main thing. Everything else can work itself out. But as long as her bullshit is compatible with my bullshit, we're okay. I have a buddy. He's not known for many gems, but he told me one thing one time, and it was just just a throwaway for him. He wasn't even thinking about it. It was so profound to me. It has resonated with me to this day. He still was with his girl at the time, and I was like, man, you know, y'all be doing this and doing that and having y'all issues. Like, why are you still with her? He said, look, you got to understand, whether it's my girl or some other girl, I'm going to have to deal with some bullshit. So in this case, I choose to deal with the devil I know than the devil I don't know, because I understand my girl's bullshit and I can deal with her bullshit.
Just for example, like what's your kind of BS?
It's kind of hard to quantify because some of it is just
Because I
real
mean, to me,
sublime.
you're almost always going to get someone who one day is going to be moody. You're going to get people who are not so moody. I mean, my girl, for example, probably 2 days a year, she might have a day. That's nothing compared to virtually any other. That's like a zero on the scale. Really.
Right. And I factor those in. Everybody has their off days or whatever.
Yeah.
It comes with the territory.
I probably have a lot more than that. She'll probably tell you.
My wife, she's prior married. She was divorced 4 or 5 years before she bumped into me. So she was single for a while. And, my wife is very attractive. She's literally a fitness model. So she's had diner and fly her out and this and that. And, she's never come at me with any of that. Something about my core resonated with her and she just submitted. Like she's never tried any bullshit with me. She is, I can talk about, that's a whole nother topic. But as far as bullshit goes, like sometimes like she just wants to do what she wants to do. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever, go ahead. My indifference borders on apathy at this point so much that I don't care what you do at this point. As long as you do what I need you to do, when I need you to do it, and you understand that, like she contributes to the household. I never have to get on her about that. She'll give it to me like a week early or something. She'll do a little laundry and do the dishes. I don't got to say nothing about that.
Does she have to do that manually, or is that like automated, like the bills come through into a central or your account or her account?
Oh, manually. She'll give me cash every month, like a little envelope, and then I manage everything else. She'll do little wifely stuff around the house and stuff. She's a fitness chick, so she does a little meal prepping and a little bland food and make her macros and whatnot. So she doesn't really like cook like for us. Like it's rare that she'll like maybe like Thanksgiving or Christmas, something like that. She'll actually cook. She can cook, but it's just not her thing, and that's fine. Because I cook for myself too. So
I mean, that's a problem. Like I think like availability bias. Like if you cook a lot of stuff and it's there, you're going to eat it. Part of discipline and everything is controlling availability, which starts in the supermarket, in the kitchen. So, yeah.
So I think for maybe some guys that could be viewed as some bullshit, because there's just some guys out there that be like, well, my wife's going to cook for me. So for me, her bullshit is compatible with my bullshit because I really don't care if she's cooking for me or not. I can cook my own food. I'm on my own little meal plan or whatever I'm doing. So we just kind of cook around each other. That's some bullshit that's compatible with me. If I was one of those guys where I was like, my wife's going to cook clean for me and stuff. Okay, so she's doing the cleaning, but she's not doing the cooking. So now it's a fucking problem.
Well, you've got compatibility basically on those. So what would you avoid? What's like a red flag for you, apart from obviously someone walking around with an ice pick in their hand? Apart from that, what's like a less
red flags?
Stereotypical
Simple. Inconsistency, incongruency, lack of self-accountability, and a delusional sense of over-entitlement. Point blank, period. Any of those things. Selfishness. All human beings are selfish by nature. I have a saying, you're only considered selfish when you don't acquiesce to the selfishness of others. I mean, that's always true. It's just to varying degrees of what the situation is. The best situation is if you're a taker, you want to be with a giver because a giver enjoys giving. It's the giving that gives them pleasure. So you don't necessarily have to reciprocate because they want, like them doing for you is what makes their heart feel full. And you taking it makes your heart feel full. So y'all are very compatible. See? Yeah, I can't deal with a chick that says one thing and does another. I need to have this whole laundry list or set of demands or just super cares what everybody else think more than what I think. Also a red flag for me over the years I've learned as far as dealing with women, and it's harder to come by now with the rise of the single mother, single families, that is kind of the trend now. A lot of women in our age range didn't have a daddy in the household for whatever reason. But it's funny to me that the woman I married, her dad was in the household. Not only was he in the household, because I mean, it's like there's levels. So you can have a dad in the household and he could be a submissive simp ass bitch. In that case, I would say you're better off with him not being there at all than her growing up. And that's the representative of a man she has to look at as far as, you know what I'm trying to say? Like the male role model. I'd say you're better off having a blank slate that you can kind of try to mold than her coming out dealing with a bitch ass, submissive ass, punk ass daddy And you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And now that's
I'd
their
say
expectation.
unless they pick up on it and they don't like what they see, because that's a very powerful motivator. I know women, and I know
Mm-hmm.
even myself in my family, I see people I don't want to emulate, and they're like a
Mm-hmm.
negative role model for me. I do not want to be like that. I'm not going to be like that. So unless it turns out to be like a negative role model, yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like with my wife, you know, luckily for her, you know, her dad, not only was he in the household, but he was a super stand up. He had the respect of the house. Like, you know, he didn't have to sit there and put his foot down for it. The way him and the mom resonated, it's the kind of primary family unit that's ideal for like growing a female child with like really a solid mindset for them.
Mm.
It was funny because, you know, so I'm a big believer the whole Oedipus electric complex kind of thing. You know, you subconsciously or consciously kind of look for attributes of like your parents, whoever you're attracted to. There's something in there that kind of resonates with you from that area of your life. So I remember one time we were grocery shopping somewhere, and just out the blue, she just said, "You actually do remind me a lot of my daddy." And I was like, how do you mean? And she was just like, you know, just not like on some creepy, I want to have sex with my dad thing, but it's just
Mm.
on like a core level, just a lot of y'all's principles, traits, y'all's belief systems, and what you stand on. Thinking about it, y'all have a lot in common.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what, that's probably a big reason why you resonate with me the way you do, and why you've never tried me like the way you've tried a lot of other dudes that you've dealt with. You know, you just naturally have a respect for me where we get along swimmingly. And I think that's a big part of it, because on a core level, I give you the right kind of daddy vibe where it's like, you can trust me, you know, I got your back, you know that I'm on top of things, and just let you just relax and be the woman you want to be.
Those are the uncommon sense things that you really want in a person around you. Is just basic stuff, but a lot of people have to go through a lot of adventures to even get there. And then we're going through when we're teenagers and maybe beyond, there's a lot of impulse to self-actualization, to rebel
Mm-hmm.
against what we see as parents, or because we want to form our own identities, to feel free, to feel alive. Yeah, there's a few things that we often go through to test, even to test what's real, what's not. And maybe that's why, as you get older, in general, people who are going in the right direction get more refined, let's say,
Well, yeah,
without
because you've
mentioning
had,
names, probably like us too.
but yeah, if you're doing it halfway right, as you age up, you've had all the wild adventures and you've tested all your hypotheses and you've banged your head against the wall, hopefully enough at this point to kind of know what works, what doesn't work, what you want to tolerate, what you won't stand for.
Yeah.
And you just like your list gets shorter and shorter as far as things that really are deal breakers, because you've just dialed it in so much. And luckily, you know, me and my wife, we just ran into each other at like the right time. You know what I'm saying? She had dealt with enough bullshit, and we both don't look our age, but she's 2 years younger than me. And we both at that point dealt with enough bullshit to kind of know if we were to do something like this again, for her doing it again or me for the first time. Because I had completely made peace with just being a bachelor. I was completely fine with just going to work. I
Uh-huh.
make enough where I can support my children and keep the roof over my head, eat decently. I can go to the gym every now and then. A old flame or a young thing will pop up, and I'll get my rocks off. And I was totally watching my anime and play my video games, and I was just gonna ride out the rest of my life like that. I was totally fine with it. The minute I had complete peace with that is the minute she showed up. And she also had no plans on ever getting remarried. She's like, been there, done that. I'm cool on that. And she was fine just doing her solo thing. You know, like I said, you know, she was getting wine and dine, and she's a hot ticket. She had no shortage of options. We crossed paths, and something about us resonated with each other, and we gave each other some time, and we both knew our time was important to each other. And so that was a big step there.
Well,
And we
a lot of people talk about, say, an attractive woman and stuff, but, the more options you've got, the more you can afford to be picky. And the more
hmm
options you've got, the more experience you're going to have. And
hmm
I would say, usually, if you're swimming in that pool of single people, you're going to find out what percentage of people in general are not fit for a relationship.
hmm
And I'm not going to say how would you say that's a high percentage of people?
Here's the cool part. It's like a slope. It's like a graph. It's like as you age up, the percentage comes down. The younger you are, probably the less ready you are for like a relationship. But then see, the cool part is market value hits. a lot of women finally dial it in where they're ready for a relationship. They've already got 2 or 3 kids, or they're huge, or, they're a much harder sell than they were when they were younger. So their mind is better, but the overall package is not holding up, where a lot of guys, they age pretty gracefully. And if they've done what they're supposed to do, they're pretty established in whatever field they're trying to be established in. Whatever modicum of success that they wanted for themselves, they're generally in that ballpark. As long as they take halfway decent care of themselves, the world is their oyster. But it's really like, my girl's a super duper X factor because she showed up. She's a former lawyer. She's a fitness model. She hasn't had any kids. She's mid-40s, but she looks probably early 30s. She's a total smoke show. Physically, she holds up very well. She looks better than women half her age, honestly. Mentally, she aged up to where she was really ready. Like, she knew what she wanted completely because she'd been through enough bullshit to really know what she wanted. And she saw what she wanted, and she made no bones about it. She made no airs about it. She came correct from day one. She has never thrown any kind of shit test at me at all. I'm sitting there waiting for it, and it never came.
This is what I'm saying. You can tell when someone's pretty much, you're calling it like sort of more idealistic father figure, but you can tell when you meet certain people, be they male or female. Sometimes you can be wrong, but generally you're going to meet someone, you're going to say they're pretty intelligent, they seem to have integrity, but most of all, just they're not stupid, they're not incompetent, they're not bad intention. I probably err too much on the negative side when I'm evaluating people.
I can relate.
Even when I've been a bit tight on that, I've still been around people who I've later had to cut off. Basically, I don't want someone stupid. A lot more harm in the world has been done by stupid people than evil people. And obviously, I don't want evil. I don't want someone who's just trying to run a con, short con, long con on me. But also, I want someone who's not that dumb, because, you're just going to run into so much trouble. It's going to be so high maintenance. You have to be thinking for 2 people instead of 1. They're just going to do dumb stuff, which is going to bring you down just as much as a person with bad intentions, just maybe in a different way. Or they're going to let people close to you and not good for you. So I'd say those things. And then someone who does understand giving. It's not necessarily that they're just a giver. Most people like to receive, but they're in a relationship to give as well as to receive. And they're not too dumb about it. They can understand what intelligent compromise is. Just before we get lost in another little thing, we've not said actually what your book is about. So we sort of left it.
We tangent. That's what we do.
So, which is good. So you've now written a book looking back on what you thought was the right thing many, many years ago. So if you can explain a little bit about that book.
Interesting enough, my original writings, they've been floating around the internet, various nooks and crannies for decades. It's really interesting when you do a Google search on it. Somebody posted it like in the Bungie Halo forums for the video game and stuff, like the intro. It's permeated everywhere. I'm pretty sure, like, between you and I, we're probably some of the unsung heroes of the whole manosphere at this point. Like, we've probably influenced a lot of people because we came out before a lot of shit. Whether we ever get our just due or not remains to be seen. But we really...
I actually saw someone come out against that. My editor did an interview. The guy who's behind the publishing company, kind of my partner in business, he did an interview. And I think there was some stuff written on the internet. Oh, yeah, they're saying that before the PUA stuff. But you just have to look at the dates.
Yeah, it's right there in black and white. I'm arguably the first person that ever used the red pill example at all in that connotation. It's very possible. So there's a lot of firsts here between us. But
so looking back in this new book, what's happened? Have you found things have got outdated, or that you've changed your mind on stuff? Have you updated it much?
The format I decided to go with was, so I took my original writings because, they've never been published properly anyway. And so I was like, it'd be kind of a cop-out to just throw this in a book and call it a day because it's so readily available. I feel like I gotta give some sort of added value to justify charging for what is pretty much freeware for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So what I did was I took my original writing and I left, for the most part, I left it untouched. All the typos, all the slang. And then I would intersped between various paragraphs of my old writings, like in a bolder, different font. It's like the 20-year-old wiser version of me, kind of like commentating on it, almost like I'm
director's commentary track. Yeah,
right. So it's basically the director's commentary track of philosophy. I break down every other paragraph or every paragraph where I talk about, okay, I still consider this valid, or I expound on some things I didn't really make that clear, or this is kind of for this sort of audience. I would do this kind of different. This right here, I still stand on, and I give some examples and stuff like that. I put this off for so long, but I'm glad that it took me 20 years. Because a lot of times I wasn't in the right headspace to do it. I knew I was fucking up. I knew I was eating a steak. I knew I wasn't in a position where I could really
preach from the pulpit.
Right. If I wrote it then, it wouldn't land the same way. I knew it wouldn't. So I didn't do that to myself. I was like, if I ever get to a point where I feel like I'm back, where I can stand on this and go back into that zone, be authentic with it, then I'll do it. If not, then I won't do it. So luckily, things in my life played out the way they did. And I was able to really get back into that space where I could sit there in front of them and look at it. My wife, she knows all about it. The mother, my second child, has no clue about the kid at all. She don't even know. She wouldn't even, I was not even that dude at all. And that's why I was so fuckery. So yeah, basically I did a director's commentary track for Pimp Philosophy. It's the director's cut. It interspeds like 20 years of living in between what I wrote as a 20-year-old college student and where I am now, and how much of it was ahead of its time and how much of it probably could have used some tweaking. And here's the tweaks you should probably implement for 2021.
Well, I was really happy to get the message from you that the book was coming out, and looking forward to reading what you have put down, because that's really interesting to get some elaboration on what you wrote, but also looking back and what you would change, improve, or stick with.
Mm-hmm. I really valued having that unique perspective I was able to have on it by taking so long to do it. It really gives it a nice ebb and flow to it. I enjoy doing it.
So now we've covered that. La jalousie est une maladie. That's my best French. That means jealousy is an illness. What do you think about that?
That's fairly accurate, Definitely a mental illness. It's an emotional illness that, of course, manifests mentally.
Just to play devil's advocate, you said a few moments ago we're all naturally selfish in a way. To a certain degree, it can be healthy.
To a certain degree, it can be healthy, I guess. I don't know. I'm at a point now where I'm so aware, but I don't care at this point. I can't even get jealous. My wife gets jealous. We're swingers, basically. We're lifestyle, we do the do. We hook up with other couples and stuff. And there's some times where she gets jealous, and maybe earlier on I get little twinges of it, but it's just we do our best to just show each other and reassure each other that, hey, we're still each other's priority. Even though we do what we do, we reinforce that every day, But just even overall, if we weren't doing that, I've gotten to a point where I just can't be bothered. I just don't care. I know it sounds weird to say. I don't get jealous anymore. It's like whatever. I'm just a firm believer in whatever is going to happen is going to happen. So I can't control what anybody does. All I can control is how I decide to react to it. And I just choose apathy.
Or is there some stuff you use denial on? You do whatever, but I don't want to talk about it or see it or whatever.
No, I don't mind talking about it. Like I don't. If you want to go run off somewhere and dome somebody in the bathroom while I'm at this party chilling, and she I was back there. I don't even care. That's cool. Okay. Hope you had a good time. I'm really hit a point of uncaringness. It's amazing. It's amazing. So it's like I'm aware, but I don't care. I can't even explain how much freedom and weight off of me, and it's the best.
It takes a lot of confidence or not caring to get there, because I think. Yeah. When you're with someone and you've got an openness in a relationship, you've probably got two main issues. One, they think someone else is going to come along because they've got access to you. They're going to take you away. They're going to outdo them. They're going to be out-competed.
Right.
Because you're on the market still. People are getting a chance to get to know you, you to know them. And then the other thing, kind of an ego thing, showing me I'm your number one priority. Why are you going out with her first? You should be going out with me first, then her. In some form or other, show me the priority.
And you know what? I don't even fucking care. It's like, you did what you did. You show me who you are. Up to me to accept that and deal with it how I'm going to deal with that. It's like I'm to the point now where it's like I can't put none of that on you. You're gonna be you. You're gonna do what the fuck you're gonna do. And then I'm going to see what you're going to do. And then it's up to me to decide whether I'm going to tolerate it, because then that sends the message that it's okay. At that point, regardless of the compromise, at the end of the day, she's like, oh, I can get away with this shit then, is what you're saying. Okay, got it. And so, that doesn't fly around here. With me, if I was in that situation, I would just look and be like, okay, that's what you decided to do. Okay, so here's what I decided to do. And, and if I decide to keep dealing with her or not, it's like I've already baked that in to where it's like, okay, I know that she's going to do that. And that expectation is expected now. The precedent has been established. I know who I'm dealing with. And then it's up to me to decide if I'm going to tolerate it and to what degree I'm going to tolerate it, and then how I'm going to move in the meanwhile.
Yeah. One thing that I got asked on a few occasions is a devil's advocate question. Why not just play the numbers game? Why bother with all this stuff?
Well, you know how I feel about the numbers game. I think it's baloney. The biggest reason is I just feel like it's the biggest waste of my time and resources. One, I don't care enough. I don't care enough to do it. The guys that play the numbers game, they haven't really come to terms with their own value. They don't really know their own worth yet. They don't understand that they're the prize, or they don't understand that's the mindset they're supposed to have. You're not supposed to be trying to get these women. You're supposed to be trying to let these women get you. Just thinking about it makes me want to take a nap. It's a lot. It's a lot. You're out there, you're meeting and greeting, you're getting numbers, you're calling. You might as well be a goddamn debt collection service. You're calling them back. You're trying to fucking coerce a date, trying to sweet talk them to a date. Let's let's do something. Let's do this. On my timeline on Facebook, you already started these chicks, these dudes. They show screenshots of like their text messages, their inbox in the morning. You got like 17 dudes in there. They're all saying, "Good morning, queen. Good morning, love. Good morning. Good morning." Like they can show you threads. My wife has a Facebook Messenger thing where she has like dudes that have been talking to themselves for years. They may go a few months without saying nothing, but they will pop back up. Never responded ever. Just going back to before we met. Just years. The dumbest shit ever.
I actually do think we are in the numbers game in a way, but in a different way. So, if we were born into a world where there was only one woman, the numbers speak for themselves. We got to do what we've got to do, But the numbers game, I think I can't put it better than you have. It's time consuming. It's inefficient.
Right.
You like you say, you're talking to yourself, and it doesn't really matter. It reminds me of like sales
back
people.
20 years ago when I first wrote Pimposity. Even as a kid, I was telling guys, you know what? Use that time to continue to better yourself, to maximize your potential. And then let them come to you. Then you'll see as you're spending that time on you, as you build it, they will come. I've always said that.
Yeah, but put yourself in an environment where the numbers, obviously, you go out to a nightclub where the only woman is behind the bar and there's 50 guys standing around. You are playing the numbers game and you're playing it stupid.
Yeah,
so
you're
we
on the
are,
wrong side of that.
I'm playing the numbers game. If I should go out to a club, I don't do that. I'm not interested in all that. But if I did, I would go out and make sure I wouldn't necessarily need more women than men, but I definitely want a high number of women, not just 2 behind the bar and 50 guys in the club. So to an extent, supply is important because 1 in 10 women is probably not stupid, incompetent, evil, and then you're probably not going to like that person anyway, just for whatever personal taste.
Funny, that type of ratio is basically what birthed Pimposity. Because when I was overseas, I was in the wrong side of the numbers game. 7 dudes to 1 chick, and so when I get around and doing my I'm gonna call it covert tactics reloaded. I got Pimposity Revisit, covert tactics reloaded, because that's where those tactics were born from, in those adverse kind of conditions where you got to heighten your senses. You got to be like super mindful, situationally aware, so that you can beat those odds as best as you can. The best chances to succeed in the types of environments.
I've got another one. It's just things from recent conversations with people. Women who spit, women who aren't exactly doing the dream stuff in the bedroom. So if you had a partner who had some kind of issues with oral sex, or running off to the bathroom spitting and stuff, how would you handle that?
You mean spitting out your spunk? Running and spitting it out? See, personally, I don't have that problem. But if I did, I don't think I've ever had that problem.
Well, I'll tell you what, I had it once with a Japanese girl many years ago, and this friend who was speaking to me this week, he was saying with a Russian girl. Neither of them got very far with either of us.
You know what? Honestly, I've made some spitters in the swallowers. I've converted. I've done some conversions. I got to think about it. It's been so long. How did I do it? Nowadays, I would just be like, okay, that's just how she is. I just have a chick on the team that does swallow it. I remember what I did. I remember how I did it. You know, she was kind of adverse to swallowing. So what I did was I appealed to her how it's not fair, because I was like, look, baby, I was like, you know, when I do oral on you and you know, you're busting and getting all creamy and stuff, I'm not running up and spitting on your stomach or running to the bathroom and spitting it out. You know, I swallow all your juices. I swallow everything that you're putting in. You scored a little bit, I'm swallowing that. I'm swallowing your cum. Why can't you swallow mine? Then I went a little bit into it and I was like, you know, it's like, for me, it's like me showing you how much I'm into you. I'm willing to sit here and just take all of your juices that's coming out and swallow them. Like, it's becoming I just hit her with that kind of thing. Like,
Exactly.
I pulled the Jedi mind trick, and I was like I do it because I enjoy it, and I enjoy pleasing you. And I would think that if you enjoy pleasing me, you would want to do it too. And she saw the sense of that. She was like, I never thought of it like that. I said, yeah, because nobody's ever put it to you like that.
Yeah.
And then after that, she was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I was like, I know, right?
I think a lot of these kind of problems, I mean, I've never resolved that particular problem because I've never had it apart from this one time. And that particular person, I had to terminate their contract for other stuff anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was I wasn't like really bothered. That was the thing. I wasn't that bothered because I was like, this kind of fits in with the whole profile of the girl.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's like it didn't surprise you. It's like, this is
kind
of meets
like
expectations.
Rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Right. It wasn't gonna change.
The shit's going down, man. Why fuck with the deck chairs?
That's great.
Who gives a fuck what song the band is playing?
Right. For real. Like, it really doesn't matter now. Play freaking Back That Ass Up for all I care.
Shit's gonna be underwater in a few minutes. So but you know, with other stuff, I've had to deal with a lot of negativity and things. It gets sorted out with a rational conversation with an intelligent girl. Because as I always say, you've got to direct the rocket. If the rocket's got fuel in, all you've got to worry about is the navigation.
Right.
So you've got to let that person know what is very important to you, what's high on your list, and they're going to be naturally motivated to listen and try and learn and fulfill that. And if they don't know how to do something, just take steps towards that thing, especially if it's difficult for them. Just break it down into steps. You need to ask a lot of why questions to understand them, and then why not questions to get over it. But the key thing is that they are motivated. If you haven't got the rocket fuel, then you need to concentrate on finding rockets with fuel.
Right,
you don't want to be wasting your time trying to direct a rocket that's got fuck all in the tank, you know? And then, of course, you've got to ensure it's fully consensual, and that often there are actual fears or misunderstandings or misinterpretations that people have based on 1, 2, 3 experiences, and they've written something off, or they've got reinforcement of the negative from friends about something not working or not being comfortable or hurting or something. And it's just because nobody's actually broken through to communicate properly with their partner to try and resolve these things. They've just been like, try and quit. The other thing is unrealistic expectations. And there's a lot of people who think it's going to work first time, and if it doesn't, then it's a big deal. And that's contrary to all logic and to how we've learned to do virtually everything we do. And if you think about it, if it's not about them getting off, it's about the other person getting off, and the other person doesn't actually communicate how important it is to them, and they both just quit and leave it, then they're actually sending the message to each other, hey, this isn't that important, we can just leave it, let's bury it. So you're just killing motivation that way. Actually, I have a rule, is that we talk about solutions, not problems. Obviously, some things you cannot resolve, but virtually everything you can seek solutions. And she would want me to seek a solution if it was about fulfilling her ultimate fantasies, about her getting off in bed like she would like, about her climaxing well. So from my side, it's my responsibility to make sure that she understands what is at the top of my list, what I really like, so I can get that from her and inside our relationship. I like the other saying as well, winners never quit, quitters never win.
Right.
But I must say, like, with all this stuff on the subject of the bedroom and sex, obviously it's all got to be consensual. It's not like you will do this because I do this for you. It's got to come from within the person, not just because of legal reasons, but because of ethical reasons. That's what it is. So just in case anyone listening is misunderstanding, what I'm saying.
Right.
You know,
No.
it's got to be.
And here's the thing, if you're doing it like the way we're telling y'all to do it, if you know you're the prize and you're putting yourself out there with that mindset, and these women are choosing you, you're not trying to convince them to fuck you. They're trying to convince you to fuck them. There's not a whole lot they won't do because they actually want you, especially if you take the time to let the tension build. I'm gonna talk about that in covert tactics too. That's huge. Tension building, that is huge. You get you get a chance to really massage that mind. I wrote a rap lyric years ago. I said, penetrate the frontal lobe with the mental probe. Once the game's sewn, then the brain's blown. But the bottom line is you take the time to build that tension. And by the time you actually get her ass naked on the bed, man, shit, man, there's so many times where it's like, I've never done this before, but I'm willing to do it with you or this, and that. It's just because she wants to be there. You didn't sit there and feed her king crab and lobster, and now you're trying to get her up to your room and you're successful, and now she's sitting there talking about well, I don't really want to do it, but you're still, come on, just do it. It's a whole different vibe when she's the one
she's not
trying
giving
to be
you
like,
a list.
so when can I come over? When can we hang out? Whoops, my shirt just fell off. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah, but I think within that, there's certain cases where people have got, you just need a good conversation to sort out. It's not that they necessarily don't want, it's just like they've heard negative stuff off their friends, or they've tried something once or twice, it was very uncomfortable or something.
Yeah, there's that.
And it's like, it's just common sense, man. If I go to the gym, if I go running, even for men, some of the first times we have sex, we might get sore or whatever. It's a physical activity, and you're using different muscles and stuff. So putting aside manipulation, selfishness, all of that, sometimes it's just stuff you just need to chop it up and say, look, I'm going to be by your side literally through this,
Right.
So just understand any concerns and work with any concerns. Next on my list is threesomes.
It's funny.
That's boring. Let's skip that. It's boring, man.
It can be. It's funny. Like I had my first threesome with my wife, so fairly recently. Now, it's not for lack of opportunity. I'm just weird. I just, I've had women call me up like, hey, I got this chick over here, a friend of mine. You should come over. We can have a good time. I don't know. I was just like, I wanted my first threesome to be like meaningful, like I don't know. It's hard for me to explain, but it's just I went with my gut, and my gut never felt right for the situations I could have been involved in. My wife and I, like I said, she's bi. We do a lot of things. She's great bait as well. She'll make a straight woman gay. Like she's just like she'll have girls go, oh my God, I don't even like women, but you do that's normal. So we roped a little single girl. I mean, we've had a few threesomes at this point, but our first one, we roped a single girl, and we all got to chatting, and it went all the way down, and it was great. She was not a stranger to threesomes. It was my first threesome, and she was like, I'm really impressed with how you handled it. It's like, well, I visualized in my mind how I would probably do a threesome for decades. Like I've done a threesome plenty of times in my mind. It's just I finally get to apply some of the image training I've had to a real situation. I'm glad it worked out. They're good. They're great.
How did you handle it afterwards with the other girl? Was it something you wanted to repeat, or it was just going to be something like, if you have threesomes, it's just going to be people you don't have too much connection to, so it's not going to interrupt the relationship too much?
Oh yeah. You have couples that have like a girlfriend or something like that, or a close triad, that kind of stuff. That's not our thing. We're like nomads. We're in the wind. We kind of just do what we want to do. We want to do it. We go into, we preface it with the expectation like, hey, we're going to enjoy this moment. We're going to make the most of it. We're going to fully just enjoy this moment. Whatever happens after this, if we get a chance to revisit, that's cool. If we don't, that's cool. But at least we had this moment, and we're going to make the most of this moment.
But let's say after she's like, kid, give me your number. No, I'm not bothered about her number. Yeah, and she's like hitting you up.
We do. My old lady has let me have some solos. Like I get hall passes if I want them. So, I mean, if I was feeling her enough, I could talk to my old lady and be like, look, would you, I'd like to have like a separate room action with her. I still like to kind of see her, whatever, And then she'd have her stipulations like, well, just don't make this like a weekly thing, or, something like that. And luckily, like I said, luckily for my wife, I'm so nonplussed about so many things. It's like, I'm not chomping at the bit when we go into it, we already before any clothes come off, like we already have a pretty. I'm good about laying down foundations and expectations before we even get there. You know, like a lot of people, they get into stuff and then they end up sitting there looking at each other when they're done. Like, okay, so what does this mean or what now? I don't do
Yeah.
none of that.
Yeah.
You know, I like here's what's gonna happen. Here's what the expectation is. Here's where we are. You know, if this is okay, if this situation is okay with you, you're welcome to join us. And this is what they expect. You know, we're not gonna have no soul ties coming out of this. You know, you're not gonna be our
Oh,
new
you mean with the
girlfriend.
new girl? You mean talking to the new girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she understands what she's dealing
What
with.
she's signing up for, making an informed decision, And then I usually just pawn it off to my old lady. I'm like, look, you know, my wife handles the logistics for almost all of these things because I just can't be bothered, man. I'm trying to play my games and watch my anime, man. I ain't got time to be managing all these text messages and blah, 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 blah. So she handles that, and then like she'll give me like a little progress report, like, hey, she'll be like, I'm like, okay, so what's going on? She'll be like, okay, we got this invite, we got that invite, so and so's going to be in town. Like she would like to see us. They got this going on over here.
Yeah.
Which of those would you like to do? Because quite frankly, I don't care if we do all of it. I don't care if we do none of it. You know, I don't care. I don't care. It's the funniest thing is because I don't care. It gets me everywhere. I swear to God, I'm so like the universe. That's the way it works. The more you want something, the more you repel it. As far as animate objects, now you apply yourself for like a degree, a career, a car, a TV, you know what I'm saying? You work hard, you work to get that. Working to get people, it doesn't work that way. You're just gonna push them away. Like it puts out like a needy energy and it repels. But the minute you don't care about something, it's like cat. If you want to hold the cat, that cat is running. If you just sit your ass down and relax, then it creeps up on you and gets in your lap. Or another example I like to say is like a puppy. Like I say, I got a puppy. I love this fucking dog, and I'm just holding it, and I'm just hugging the fuck out of it. That dog is doing nothing but trying to get the fuck away from me. I'm just holding on too tight. It's just clawing and squirming and taking off. But if I just hold the puppy and just give it the space, it'll nuzzle in. It'll make itself comfortable. You know what I mean?
I mean, this comes back to what I was saying about people have a need to feel alive, self-actualization, that they're making the choices in their life. And what goes wrong in a lot of relationships and even could cause a lot of crazy behavior, even affairs that just don't make any sense. Like someone's happy with their partner, basically, but they've lost that feeling that they're in control, that they're making autonomous decisions. There is an excitement part, you know, it's like I have a friend in the police and we're talking about different criminal behavior. And I said, have you ever thought about people trying to do something risky? Because a lot of the crime doesn't make sense, you know, it's people taking unreasonable risk and it's quite hard to explain. There are explanations, but to me, it's always underestimated the power of adventure, excitement, you know, and also of feeling autonomous in your decision making, which is, as I say, what we rebel against when we're teenagers. We're kind of coming up with trying to discover our own identity, which is what it is, you know, we just form it ourselves. But maybe it explains, you know, kids coming back from college with something tattoo or a piercing they know their parents aren't going to like, you know, it doesn't make any sense, but it's like, that's a statement, that's me, it's my decision, I did what I wanted. Unfortunately, they were just doing it to prove the point, which is not really mature. I think in relationships, there's two factors there which can cause trouble. The adventure factor, which I don't think you've got any issues with that factor from my appraisal.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah. And then autonomy, I don't think you've got many issues with that factor in the relationship. But I think those two factors do cause or can cause, they fester year after year. And when women say they're married at 20 or something, or you're in a long relationship, and especially in the absence of intelligent compromise where you are getting what you want totally without having to think about the other person's needs at certain times, then you don't have that feeling of being alive. You know, it's like, if I was single, I would do X, Y, Z. If I was single, I would do this, but I'm not. I'm in a relationship. And when you get to that, it's like a cancer. It's like something toxic in the relationship. It might just be there forever and not manifest particularly. It might manifest in just extra moodiness, extra
Right.
negativity, less
Situational.
happiness. But yeah, what do you think of those two factors?
Because you're quite right in what you said from the perspective of you. I'm just giving the cat's perspective. So the cat is feeling free to play, feel to be creative, feel free to come to you of its own choice. So if you look at it in that, the cat can have excitement, adventure, playfulness inside that interaction with you. More importantly, what you're not doing is laying on the pressure, making them feel forced, constrained, and obligated. On top of that, you're not putting yourself like in a club. It's like the group of guys just stood all together staring at women. And it's like, if you avoid being put into that group, you're going to be seen as someone different and not as part of this great mass of just guys gawping, guys chasing.
You know what? It's like you get what you sign up for. And that's the biggest problem is so many people, they set themselves up for failure because they get so attached to, they get so wanting to like possess, they get so possessive and territorial and wanting to make sure they lock somebody in that they accept a deal that they really don't want. And they know they don't want it, but they still take it because they want this person. And this is what they got to do to give them. And that's a fool's bargain. And then you're stuck with that at that point because it's what you signed up for. And anything else deviates from the precedent and foundation you've established. And a lot of that is baked into lack of ego regulation. You got your pride, you got your ego. So on this side, yeah, you got the girl you wanted, but at what cost? And now you got this other side where it's like, well, now I can't do this, and that. And then that's where a lot of relationships go awry because you got all this repressed desire and wants and needs of other things you want to do that go against the confines of the relationship that you signed up for, that you laid down the foundation for. The next thing you know, you're fucking around and fucking it off, and now you're fucked off. It's totally preventable. It's just the problem is so many guys in particular fear loss. They don't want to lose this person. You just have to get to a point where you can't care about that. You know, nothing lasts forever. Even if y'all married to go a distance, one of y'all gonna die sooner or later. Once you assimilate that and you accept that, you make life less about long-term goals and more about like daily victories kind of thing. You just enjoy the moment. Like a lot of time when couples break up, the woman's always like, oh man, that was like 5 years of my life wasted. You got to look at it like that's 5 years of your life that would have passed anyway. So was it time well spent? You know, did y'all have more good times than bad times? If so, then it was a worthwhile relationship. It was time well spent. Nobody goes on 2 weeks of vacation from their job and comes back and complains about, well, damn, that's 2 weeks I can't get back. You know, you got your pictures, you got your memories, you know, you're glad you took that 2 weeks off, you know? I think people need to start looking at relationships more like that, more like, you know, don't worry about making it to the 20-year anniversary or whatever. Don't even worry about tomorrow. Just worry about making today the best day. I mean, it could be a horrific car crash tomorrow. You don't know. So it's just, you just want to make every day you can worthwhile in some way. And then those days will add up or they won't. But the point is, we only have today at any given time.
Yeah, like the Queen says in Alice Through the Looking Glass, I'll pay you with jam, but you only get jam every other day, yesterday and tomorrow. So she says, well, that's lucky because I don't feel hungry today. She said, well, you'd never get any today because it's not yesterday or tomorrow.
Sounds like he's in the jam, all right.
So we don't have yesterday or tomorrow, really.
Right.
This is going to sound like I've never been listening to you. I've never paid attention to fucking thing you've ever said.
Oh, really?
So excuse it coming from that angle. So if you ever had intense feelings for someone, it's like, yeah, they're not really a good person, but, you know, the feelings here kind of on an 11 out of 10, you know, in bed, or they're just doing something that on the chemistry level that's wild. So I'm going to interact with them, even though it's going to be a complete shitstorm, or we're just not compatible. She's trying to get me to pay for stuff, and it's just not going to work out.
You're asking me, like, have I been in a situation, or what would I do?
Yeah,
or
some serious feeling here, whatever it is, lust or passion or je ne sais quoi.
Oh, it's funny because I was just interacting with a woman like that not too long ago. Like, we both know we're horrible. We can be, because I'm horrible too. and we can just be horrible, but like just the way our energy resonates with each other, we just get each other. And so I made a joke. I was like, you know what, me and you were like Hancock, that movie where it's like we can't be around each other for too long because we just get weak and can't do shit. But so we got to keep our space so we can still function and rule the world in our own respective sectors, kind of thing. And that tickled her. But back to what you're saying as far as the toxic situation. Hell yeah, I've dealt with some toxic women. They can try. You know, it's funny. I haven't really had a lot of women try to get me out of pocket, try to get me to pay, try to get me to come out of money or nothing.
Yeah, me
It's
neither.
almost like they know who they're dealing with when they're dealing with them. They may have other guys that they fleece like that, and I'm aware of it. Like we probably like crack jokes and talk about it, but when they come to me, they know they're just here for dick and bubble gum, and I'm fresh out of bubble gum. I've never had a woman I deal with ever come at me on something. I need a bill paid, or could you front me this? This is like they just already know when they sign up for what they're signing up for. Like they don't,
Because you've
they don't
taken your time to get to know them a bit.
maybe, or just the way my vibe is.
Yeah.
They just know that it probably wouldn't go very well.
Keeping on the subject of that kind of perhaps perceived as extraordinary chemistry or vibe or whatever, thought about it like, oh, you have to be in it to win it. You know, you can change things from the inside. You know, this will be a challenge. You know, this will test my
Oh, well, that
skills.
was me. That was me with my second baby mama, and that was a complete failure. That was a failed experiment there. I was like, I got enough brains to think for the both of us. I just need her to just follow my lead, and she would not. And then my pride took over. I was still too prideful. I was like, you know, I can do this. I can make this work.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking kid. I can do this. And it just blew up my fucking face. And so, yeah, that was a hard lesson learned there. It's just, you know, and that's where I'm arrived at the thing where it's like, you know, I can't control what people are going to do, just how I react to it. Where I was younger, you know, some of my writings, I kind of give the impression like you can kind of make women kind of march to a certain beat by doing certain things.
Yeah.
And now I kind of back up from that a little bit. I'm like, you know what, they're going to do what they're going to do. All you can do is react to it. You can influence it a little bit, maybe, depending on how she resonates with you and how much she prioritizes you and whatever she's trying to do with you. But at the end of the day, she's gonna do what she's gonna do, and you just gotta accept that, just see what it is, and then, you know, move forward knowing that's what that is, and make your next move your best move. That's all you can do.
I think you can avoid a lot of problems by considering attitude non-changeable. So
Absolutely.
when someone says to me, you know, what you look for or what do you find attractive, I say attitude, because with the right attitude, it doesn't matter how good or bad you are in bed. It doesn't matter how good or bad you are at a relationship. If you've got the right attitude and the right kind of personal qualities, obviously, you're just going to keep improving and improving. You know, it's like America, you know, you're running on the right software. You know, it doesn't matter where you are, it's going to get better in future. It may involve some work together and stuff, but with the right attitude, you can't really go wrong. It's like more going to test your own patience and communication skills, maybe.
I always say what I find most attractive about a woman is that she finds me attractive. That's what I always say.
She's got good taste.
Yeah, she likes what she sees, so I like what I see.
This is what I'm trying to corner you in on. I'll give you an example. Probably rate this person like a 10 or, you know, out of 10, probably rate them a 10 or 11 on the sort of chemistry.
Okay.
On the, I don't know, man, like, you know, she can look at me and bite her lip, you know, literally. So it's kind of a two-way thing, unless you go for the theory that you're dealing with complete fraud. After a while getting to know this girl, she's like, next time I want you to get me a taxi to go home. So I'm like, a taxi, you know, because I always confirm stuff. First of all, because then if I'm going to cut someone off or something, it ends on them saying the words.
Right.
So
make sure you said what you said when you said it.
Yeah. It's like one time she said to me something like, you're going to pay for my nails to be done or something. So I said, what? So she's like, you're going to pay for my nail. Yeah. So right on, you know, so there's no, I don't have to say, look, you said those words. It's like on those words, she understands exactly why the call's finishing. Because otherwise you get into this shit of, oh, your tone of voice, how you spoke to me, all this stuff. Yeah.
Right.
You totally lose.
You.
You totally lose the focus. So I really like to do that if possible, because it's just communication without talking. to be fair, we'd had a pretty volatile introductory phase where I'd probably cut her off about 2 or 3 times. But one of the times she actually borrowed a phone and called me internationally when I cut her off, at considerable expense to her. There's stuff there, she's got some grit, she's not playing about.
They gotta shit test you. They gotta make sure you're the dude that you're purporting yourself to be. Whether it's consciously or subconsciously. It's just the way they're wired, because they've dealt with so many bullshit dudes that fold under pressure or say that not what they said they were, and they can just have their way with them. That why would you be any different? Why would you?
Yeah,
they gotta see it. They gotta see it to believe it.
She more or less immediately tried to find a phone and call me back the first time.
Right. She learned that day.
I was impressed with that. Anyway, the second and third time, she didn't do that. I just unblocked her eventually when she contacted me by email or something. I'm not really absolutely cutting someone out of my life. I always leave like a back door. Someone can always contact me if they want to, kiss and make up.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be the front door that's unlocked and wide open, like, hey, but, if they're going to make a little bit of effort, great. Yeah, so she always likes to video call me, and she's always like beaming, biting a lip, like really tripping off even seeing me. Anyway, this time, first time ever, she's not just tripping, I'm like, what's with a stony face? So she's like, something about next time I want a taxi, you to pay for a taxi to take me home. So
why are you so why are you so adamant? I'm like, why is it such a sticking point? It's like, okay, no. I remember there was one chick I was dealing with when I was in nursing school. We had really good chemistry, like 11 chemistry. It was off the Richter. She would do a lot of things for me, and I would accept them graciously. And there were a couple of times where she'd be like, I do all of this and you don't do nothing. I don't like it. And so then I was like, you know what? A couple of things. One, you're right, and I need to get better with at least reciprocating a little bit. You're right about that. That's on me. Two, you got to understand the way you're wired. Like I was going back to the give and taking thing. The way you're wired, it makes you feel good to do things, and it makes me feel good to accept the things you're doing. So, you got to understand that you can't have the expectation that people are going to be like you. It does not give me joy to do for others the way it gives you joy to do for others. So we're not wired the same way. I'm not saying that the little bit of reciprocation I'm going to do is coming from a spiteful, I guess it's kind of an obligated place, maybe, but I understand that I need to do a little bit. That's fair. But you got to understand that it doesn't give me pleasure like you get pleasure from doing stuff for me. You just got to understand we're not wired that way. So once I explained that to her, she kind of grudgingly was like, okay, I see what you're saying. And then she never really gave him a shit about it. But then again, I made sure that I'd at least do like, a quarter, like I said back in my writings where, I'm saying every 75%, I give like a quarter back. It's not fair to do nothing. I'm not a hypocrite. I can't be a complete hypocrite. But at the same time, I'm not trying to match you note for note, step for step. I'm not wired that way.
You know what I've learned? And it avoids wasting a shitload of time, money, effort, and garbage. And you may say, well, they may not know what they like, Often they might not know what they like, but sometimes you say to them, what would you really like? Forget all the small stuff. Well, small stuff that doesn't really mean much. But, if someone did one thing for you this month, what would it be that would really make your heart beat faster or really great memories? So you're like saying, basically, if I reciprocate, what sort of stuff is it that you like? I'm finding out your favorite flavor of ice cream. Instead of turning up with a vanilla ice cream and she hates vanilla, still cost me my money and time, right? If and when you are going to give, make sure it's in those important things that mean something to the person. And
that's a great point. Make it count.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just about a general feeling, I like to feel like you're doing something for me. Well, fuck that. Go and think a bit harder about what makes, if I'm going to give you something, just so you get a general feeling, nah, that's not good enough. We're on a higher level than that. So if you've got some kind of fantasy, if you've got some kind of thing, you just let me know. But until then, don't tell me to get you this or expect that or anything just for a feeling. I'm going to listen to what kind of feelings you want to experience in the relationship. But usually those feelings come from manners, consideration, from how we talk, tone and everything. But it's not stuff you buy and give or that kind of thing. So if I'm going to buy something, he's got to be giving me value. You know, I'm not going to be blindfolded, feeling my way around. I'm going to give you this and this. And yeah, you didn't really like it, but hey, that makes sense. It's the same in bed. I want to know what really turns that person on. Why am I going to spend 3 hours doing something I'm just guessing? We've all had these relationships when we're younger, and someone's doing stuff with you and you're like, oh, I wish they were as good as person X. And it's just because you've not, you know, if you just said, well, why don't you do what person X did? You know, this is my favorite thing. But, you know, you're only 16 years old, so you don't know to sort of express those things, you know.
Well, I know what turns my women on. Me.
Access, all areas. Yeah, going back to this problematic one where there was a lot of chemistry, I wasn't about to start paying for a taxi because for me, that's possibly the start of a slippery slope, you know.
Right, that's the downward spiral. That's where you establish a new precedent, and now it's just now you're off to the races.
She couldn't give me a good reason why where we were is like one of the best public transport systems in the world. You know, I'm talking about clean, safe, everywhere that I use. But I know quite a few people in the country, and she could afford a taxi if she wanted. And it was just kind of like, to me, slippery slope. And eventually, one day I said to her, look, I'll pay for your taxi from your work to mine. When you go from mine home, you take care of your own taxi, because just as if you'd left work going home, it'd be the same thing. Just to see
what she's saying.
Yeah. And now that was no go. But for me, that was like really stretching myself to be very, very flexible. We never met again because I just wouldn't accept that.
You know, I've dealt with women where they weren't even in the best financial situation, but they would still get an Uber or a taxi to my house and take an Uber or my taxi out, and with no expense to me because they was getting what they wanted out of the deal.
Yeah. I was just like, are you so stupid you don't understand how it looks? It looks like I'm paying for you to come to me to fuck me, kind of thing. And what does that look like?
And maybe she's the type of woman that felt like for her makeup, she needed to have some sort of financial somewhere in there to make her feel like it was worthwhile or something to that effect. I mean, me personally, I've dealt with women that, like, you know, like they may be like, oh, you know, I don't know how I'm going to be able to get up there to see you. And it's like, it begs the question, like, you know, maybe I could pick them up or send get them a ride or something. And then I'm just like, well, then just get at me when you figure it out. Bye. I don't care. I got shows to watch, man. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, to me,
like, I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to give you something you need. You know what I mean? It's like, you figure out how to get here so I can give you what you want. Bye.
If I just engaged in the taxi BS, then maybe I could get to know her more. You know, there's always that temptation that you're so smart, you need to be inside the circle to influence the circle and all this stuff. But to me, even with someone on a 10, that's it. You know, if you're going to test me on that. But yeah, it was just crazy because it's very rare that chemistry. I mean, maybe part of it was that I sensed she was a bad girl. And maybe that was exciting to me. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that's some of the best times ever. Those are good times. But it's just you got to keep them at arm's length. And you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're waiting for the bullshit that you know it's coming. You don't know how it's going to manifest, but you know it's eventually going to show up. It just is what it is. It comes with the territory.
Well, you know what? She messaged me after one of these kind of end of contracts. She's like, from now on, we're just going to be no obligations. We're just going to meet up for sex.
Oh, okay. Don't threaten me with a good time.
I was like, okay, like, whatever.
Okay, and you're going to get your own taxi home. Deal?
Yeah, she forgot to mention a taxi. But anyway, you know, it came back around to that shit. And like I say, who knows what would have happened if I'd engaged in the taxi stuff, but
you know what would have happened. It would have just gone from there. Then it's the whole nails thing. Then it's just maybe you can get a taxi for me to get there too. It'll never end. It'll never end. Man, you save yourself a lot of fucking headache because it's just once you open that door, you can't close it.
Well, there's a few things you can do. Once you're playing dirty, you're playing dirty. If she's playing dirty, it's but like I say, then why do you want to spend your time playing dirty tricks on each other to manipulate each other?
I
when you
used to
can.
enjoy that when I was younger. Now I just can't be bothered. I just can't. This makes me want to take a nap. Just
Oh
leave me
shit! I
alone.
forgot my wallet. Shit.
You got it? Yeah, I got it.
Oh, good job you're here.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but
Thank God.
so we'll wrap it up unless there's anything else you want to.
No, I think I'm good and covered. This was great. Yeah. This is really, really long overdue.
Any other ideas on books, or is that just the one?
I have one more idea. I mean, covert tactics is a given. I'll probably do that one next while I think about it. But then I also want to do a book. I got a title for it. I was going to call it Paramour, How to Be Boyfriend Number 2. You know what paramour is?
No.
Okay, you know how women are called mistresses? The guy version is a paramour. I was going to call it Paramour, and the subtitle was going to be How to Be Boyfriend Number 2, because I dated pretty unconventionally, as you may know. And I just, for some reason, I would never go out of my way to deal with married or involved women, but they would go out of their way to deal with me. My model was, if you don't care about your relationship, I'm not going to.
The only thing is that, I mean, I used to be the same. But when I look back now, I was in some really fucking dangerous situations, potentially. You don't know if someone's following you, suddenly going to attack you. To me, that's not such a great lifestyle, because we're all about relaxing, living good.
But see, that's why I'm going to write my book. See, How to Be Boyfriend Number 2 with all the with as little adverse risk as possible. I've got it down to a science.
Well, number one, you can write, don't move into their fucking house.
Right. So I got a lot of tips and tricks and know-how as far as how to maneuver in situations like that limit your exposure to those types of situations. So that's why I was like, maybe I'll write a book about it. I did pretty good. And I had like a strict rule set, and I vetted a certain way and made sure they understood the rules of engagement, what to do, what not to do, when not to do it. And I held them to it. I held them to that standard. And if they ever stepped out of that, I just cut them off.
So what's an example of a rule?
I'm never going to contact you. You're always going to contact me, because I don't know when I'm contacting you, what's going on, where he's at, what you're doing, looking over your shoulder. So don't ever expect me to give you any kind of attention, like where I'm going to contact you first. You need to, you know what I'm saying? You expect that from your husband or your boyfriend. You got to understand that I don't fit into that bucket. You can't fit me into the bucket you're used to, because we're not dealing in a normal situation.
But if you receive a message, you're gonna text them back.
Well, yes. I reciprocate. But I always say it's on you to contact me, because if I contact you, it begs too many questions depending on what the situation is when I contact you. Anything
you can think of that you'd like to pontificate on?
Right. Yeah. Finally. Right.
Finally. Yeah. Wow. Finally.
Sorry for the wait, everybody. Sorry it took so long. I had to get my shit together.
Man, this is a warning. Make sure you get oven gloves on when you unpack that book, because it's shit hot.
It is ice cold at the same time. For those who are interested, it's out on Amazon in all territories. There's paperback and Kindle ebook. It's out there. Go get it. No, I've been waiting a long time for it. Like I said, there's a lot of extra content in it. I've updated it with my 20 years of living. I've done since I've read the original writings, and I think to my longtime fans, all 5 of you, it should speak to you well. And then and to my newcomers, you kind of get to see the beginnings of, like, where you see where Red Pill and MG Town and all that stuff is. Now you kind of see the genesis of what was going on before all of that even took root, what probably inadvertently influenced a lot of that stuff.
Do you think what happened was that the word pimp had too much of a negative meaning? It's like nowadays, you can have Jay-Z saying pimp, dust your shoulder off and stuff, and people don't get too triggered by the word, because it's being used so often and everywhere. Pimp My Ride, that's on MTV and stuff, and things like that. So it's being used in less negative connotations. But do you think that may have held it back somehow? The fact that the PUA thing exploded after that, using different language. I mean, even pickup isn't particularly positive. I mean, it's something men can relate to.
Pickup never resonated with me. That's for sure. I just was like, this is a lot to do for a bunch of nothing. And I'm glad that it kind of went the way of the dinosaur, and not as popularized or as desired as it once was like a decade or so ago. Pimp
I think it
definitely.
became so well known as something a little bit artificial, and I think obviously the famous book was called The Game, as it being a game.
There's no
To be
authenticity
fair,
in it. You
to be
just.
fair, I can't
Mhm.
really knock the principle necessarily of.
Mhm.
So I know this famous person who was a bit hesitant about putting out music because someone in their family's already famous, so they didn't really want to ride off that.
Right.
So I said to them, don't worry about that. That's called marketing. That's going to help you. And to listen to it once, yeah, it's not going to be fair, as you put it. But if they listen to it twice, 3 times, 4 times, that's going to be on you, on your
On the
talent
strength
and
of you
everything.
as an
Yeah,
artist, right?
because your famous relative is not going to get you past that first listen.
Right.
So you actually should use that.
So I have terminology like, use your unfair advantage, have what's it, it could be like your watch, a girl picks up on that and uses it to start an interaction. But when you're interacting, or whatever your what's it is or unfair advantage is genuine, is not something that you've read online and concocted some kind of fake stuff, We're on the triple A shit, they're on the triple F, fake shit, So we're consistent, we start how we mean to finish, and we are authentic.
One aspect of PUA stuff is to get that first interaction. So I can understand that principle, but the problem is that it's fake. You're doing some fake, silly stuff to get that first interaction.
Right. I mean, there's some gold shavings. PUA is just the whole foundation and application of it is just bullshit. It's a shame because there's a lot of social techniques that could be harnessed in a much less lecherous way and still be very effective. You could leverage some of the cherry picking as a PUA thing I use a lot. Used correctly and authentically, it's great. It keeps them talking, gets them more comfortable with you. You can completely autopilot a conversation. And
What's cherry picking?
Cherry picking for me, we can do a quick example of cherry picking. Let's say I meet you and we're talking. Okay, so I'm like, hey, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Yeah.
So what brings you around these parts? Like, what got you out here tonight? Like, what's going on around here?
I was just out with my friend. It's their birthday.
Their birthday? Today? Is it last
Yeah,
week?
it's today. Yeah.
It's today? Oh man, are they from here?
Yeah, they're local.
They're local. Okay, like how far out? Like 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, 20. Yeah.
Okay, so locals. Do you guys come here a lot to this spot? It's a good spot.
Yeah, quite a lot.
So
you're basically just mining every single thing I say.
Yeah, so it's like
rephrasing it back to me.
Right. So yeah, basically, so whatever you say, I see the cherry in that, and I pick it, and I kind of flick it back at you. So and you can have a whole conversation.
To me, once we got beyond like you asking me twice, to me that's a loser conversation. It's like
maybe
you can hear that in clubs all over the place and stuff. Like the woman just responding.
But you got to understand, the women that I choose to do this with, I've already deduced that they got eyes for me. They're just happy to be talking to me at this point. So I'm giving them an easy conversation. They're not going to blow that. So, like I said, it's situational. That's how cherry picking works, but it's much more effective if you already know your target has eyes for you. It doesn't matter what I say at that point. She's just happy that we have a conversation going. She is more than happy to talk about herself. More than happy. And the added bonus is she's talking all about herself, and I'm still becoming more and more of a mystery because I'm just throwing it back at her. She doesn't know nothing about me. That builds that mystique.
I find another thing that helps just generally in those situations that I've traveled a lot. So I tend to be very often or have been in situations where people know I'm just like in a town, in a city, even in a country for a limited time.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
the time factor. Mm-hmm.
I remember a couple of exes ago, I was like on a dating site and this girl says, anyway, she became my girlfriend. She said, I'm really proud I chose you. And I'm like, because I couldn't even remember. If I messaged her or whatever, It's like, to be fair, you have to excuse me because I interacted with a lot of women.
That's fair.
It's like I couldn't remember. And so she's like, yeah. So I'm like, well, what happened? So she's like, well, I was like, you kept showing on my screen. So I was like, yeah, okay. And she's like, yeah, I thought, you caught my eye. And then you weren't there. And I was like, damn. Then you appeared like a few days later or a week later or something. And I was like, I have to message him because,
I don't know if it could disappear again, right?
Yeah. So maybe I've disappeared twice, I don't know, but at least once. That provoked.
And that's one of the reasons I do that.
It's just another illustration of when you're in a limited variable availability, it does help people to front less. Even down to earth people who are not manipulative or anything, they recognize that it's either do it now, choose it or lose it.
Right.
So she was like telling me this. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that totally fits with the logic that I'm operating on.
Yep, that time factor. Not knowing. It's either knowing that time is short or having no idea what the timeline is. Either of those situations will force a hand every time.
Yeah, and sometimes they're on a limited time and you don't know. So they're literally going to do something because of their limits.
Yeah, I remember when I was stationed overseas, because we were all there for a year. We all had year commitments. And so I extended because I knew I was going to get out. So I got to see some of those women actually come and go. Let me tell you, when they get into their last 2 weeks, I had so much fun denying them because I knew they had eyes for me the whole time, but they were playing the game how it goes because it was 7-1. They had these guys giving them their whole pages to hold their hand. Then, they knew that back home, and the caliber guy I was, they didn't have no chance with. And there I was, just captive audience there. Last 2 weeks, oh man, they was making all kinds of overt innuendo and stuff. And I just played stupid or just outright was like, no, thank you. Because, and basically I told a couple, I was like, look, you had all year to make a move on me. And you want to wait till you're a week from leaving to finally come out and be real? Nah, I'm cool. I don't even want it. To me, that was better than sex. So look them straight in the eye and be like, nah, I'm cool.
Okay, right. I'll leave it there. Otherwise, we'll be talking all day. So we got to eat, live, sleep, whatever.
You gotta go watch
Good talking
this movie.
to you, man.
Yep, you too, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Yep, bye-bye.